A campaign rally this evening in Minnesota, capping off the Democrats' search for a vice presidential nominee. Kamala Harris has selected Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. His selection caps his swift ascent from a relative unknown to a leading driver of the Democrats' attacks on former President Donald Trump and the MAGA agenda. Our Washington correspondent Julia Benbrook joins us live from the White House. Now, Julia, what are you hearing about the selection process?
Well, Cynthia, this was the most accelerated vice presidential search process in modern American history. And Walz quickly went from a third-tier contender to a top contender in the eyes of Harris and her vetting team. He got the official call today. Vice President Kamala Harris selecting Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate.
Would you be my running mate and let's get this thing on the road?
I would be honored, Madam Vice President.
The joy that you're bringing back to the country, the enthusiasm that's out there, it'll be a privilege to take this with you across the country.
The 60-year-old emerged as a favorite for some high-profile Democrats and labor unions. A source familiar with the process says that Harris was impressed in part with the governor's authenticity.
I'm not interviewing for anything. I'm just am who I am and put it out there.
Walz is a veteran and former congressman who represented a conservative-leaning rural district for 12 years. Prior to that, he was a high school football coach and teacher.
I don't know if every high school geography teacher expects to be in this position at some point, but it is very strange to be running on my treadmill and have people talking about the things that are there.
He's already proving to be an effective messenger. He was one of the first to refer to the top of the GOP ticket as weird, a talking point that has gained traction in recent weeks.
These guys are just weird. That's who they are. So it isn't much else. Don't give them the power.
Another top VP contender, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, is still attending that event. He's tweeted out his support for the ticket and says that he plans to continue to lead the charge in Pennsylvania, a key battleground state, as Harris and Walz campaign there.
Now, Julia, as you mentioned, Harris didn't have a lot of time to pick a candidate, and there were many contenders. What made Walz stand out?
Well, throughout this process, we know that she was looking for both a governing partner and someone who could help her get elected. A Democrat with close knowledge of this process defined what she was looking for as the 3 C's: competence, core values, and chemistry. And it seems like the two of them really just hit it off. Harris and Walz didn't have much of a history together, but she grew more interested in the way that he carried himself, according to sources close to the process, and especially during that Sunday interview at the Naval Observatory.
Now, reaction, of course, is flooding in. So I'm curious, what does Donald Trump and his running mate have to say about Walz as Harris's pick?
Well, the Trump campaign has been conducting opposition research on Walz and some of the other top contenders in recent days. And we know that they plan to paint him as more liberal than both Harris and President Joe Biden. Former President Donald Trump tweeting out today that they're the most radical left duo in history. Vance is also leaning into that same narrative, saying that the pick highlights how radical Kamala is. So while Democrats are trying to use him to reach across the aisle, Republicans are trying to paint him as someone who is so far on the other side that they wouldn't want to do so.
Julia, as always, thank you very much. That is CNN's Julia Benbrook in Washington.